Welcome to our 3x Capital Sessions market research. And today we are with Brian from Santiment. And today we will be exploring the Santiment platform once more. And I think we will be diving deeper also in social trends and social features which sentiments can provide. And overall, I've done my exploration. How does it work? Maybe Brian will correct me a little. But Sentiment as a platform provides a great way to analyze current market trends through so technically how it works. Sentiment monitors a number of Twitter profiles, top Telegram chats in crypto, Reddit discussions, etc., and combines them in data points, basically, where some mentions of any crypto-related, basically, assets, news are combined, and number of mentions of such news are basically calculated, and that's how we see these trends. So let me know, Brian, if I'm correct, because I jumped into your docs, wanted to understand how it works, and yeah, if this is correct, it's great that it is. So
good summary for sure. It's we do a little bit of everything at Santiment. We cover the on-chain aspects as well as the social elements to see how the crowd is kind of reacting to the ebbs and flows of markets at any given time.
Yeah, so I think, Brian, we can jump to some social metrics, which you said you have prepared some, and it would be great maybe to discuss them. Also, please let us know if any questions during the meeting, leave them in the chats, and we will return to them a bit later. So let me share your screen, Brian.
I just did myself, but if I should unhide so you can, whatever's best for you.
It's already, so yeah, it's screens should be seen already.
Okay, perfect. So one thing that we like to start out with when we come to Santiment would be our main social trends page right here. And this is not the only place where you can find social elements, but it's kind of the home base where you get an idea of what the crowd is talking about at any given time. And you'll see 4 tabs here, and I'll go over each one here, beginning with the first, which is trending words. And these aren't just arbitrary words that we pick out of a hat. These are all based on what the math is telling us are the most rising and prominent topics in crypto at any given time. And there's a lot of various random words and noise that might be related to a Binance promotion or another big exchange initiative that's gaining traction at any given time. But you can really see after this first one, which is something to do with the Velo ecosystem, which I won't get too into, but below that is CPI, right, which is a very important discussion. And right now, it's the number 2 trending topic in crypto. And according to our summary, which, by the way, is AI generated, so this is taking all of the different discussions related to CPI and giving it an appropriate summary as to what it's referring to. So they say the word CPI is trending due to the consumer price index, a key economic indicator that measures the average change over time in prices paid by urban consumers. The text mentioned upcoming CPI data releases, actual CPI values, and expectations around the CPI data, indicating a focus on economic trends and potential market impact. So in short, the CPI report is on people's minds. Traders have seen many times, especially in previous months, where the CPI has had a dramatic impact on prices one way or another. In fact, last month, the CPI gave crypto a nice boost temporarily. And according to how markets are going as of right now, which we can briefly touch on, it does look like the optimism is there right now for the CPI report. Below that, we have various things, TIP, DOGS. DOGS, by the way, is related to trading on the Ton blockchain. Different prices are being offered for DOGS on Ton. Long story short, it looks like the main discussions are around inflation and the CPI report. And that seems to be what the next big narrative is that is going to shift markets one way or the other. You've got Bitcoin here at number 8, but I always recommend this as kind of the home base when you've been away from crypto for a day or a couple days or especially weeks. Come to the trending words page and you're quickly going to find what those topics are that are driving markets one way or the other, as well as some of the associated words, right, which are really important to get a grasp as to why that word is trending and what they're kind of related to, even if these other words aren't necessarily in the top 10 themselves.
Yeah, really nice summary by Brian. But I just looked through trending words right now. Remember some news and from this week, and I just see that, for instance, like the ninth word right now is CFTS, and I remember recently they have announced that Bitcoin and Ethereum they classified them as a commodities. So basically, it's big news for crypto market as well, and so through trending process also clear basically why it is here, but it's a big news for the market, and here we can see it how it's basically connected here. Plus, like there was the conference, and right now Ethereum CC, which is in Paris, in Europe overall. I believe it's not in Paris, but it should be in Belgium, in Brussels. A big conference regarding Ethereum also is right now. So it's a great tool to not only see the trends, but some maybe big events which you might have missed, and see how they basically project their results on the market in part.
Right. Yeah, thanks for mentioning the CFTC. It's certainly, I think, as of right now and why the markets are moving the way they are, they're reacting positively due to this news, because the crypto, as long as we've remembered, has had that battle between being classified as a commodity rather than a security, especially here in the US. That's where, Ethereum recently, I know XRP has had its, discussions with the SEC and various bureaucracies out there. So yeah, we're seeing the CFTC making these statements, and it's having a dramatic impact. Maybe not a huge bull run all of a sudden, but certainly a positive reaction to the market.
Yeah, what I can say here, I think, talking about the bull run, I think I just had a saying, when the changes, they are cumulative, but they come cumulative, but then they realize themselves in really risky moves. So basically, that's, I think, what will happen, and that's usually what happens. We see a lot of some positive news prior to bull run, but then the bull run happens, and then that's what we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving on to the second tab here, we have the historical crypto trends tab. And here we have 9 different subjects that are kind of recurring topics on cryptocurrency discussion forums at any given time. We have, in no particular order, ETF, CPI, inflation, meme coins, liquid staking and restaking, AI, bull market, social fi, and real world assets. And you'll notice right away there are a lot of declines among these topics. ETFs being talked about less and less as the hype has died down a little bit. Meme coins, especially because they have been struggling compared to other sectors of the markets. And of course, markets in general have struggled in the past 4 months now, ever since the mid-March all-time high. We have bull market picking up a little bit of steam because people are anticipating a rebound and starting to see semblances of one. Social fi is starting to grow, and real world assets are declining. So they're all over the place. You can see AI actually is having a nice spike, and inflation as of today is having a nice spike with CPI. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but this is more of a long-term perspective on the markets, looking at 9 different subjects, which we update from time to time, depending on the longer-term topics that are constantly being discussed. And they'll give you a good glimpse at which ones are heating up or cooling down at any given time.
That's by the way what I also see. So like on this all of these graphs, there is also a graph of Bitcoin, but on RVI assets we see the maker graph. I'm just that's basically partly clear why, but I'm also curious to understand, for instance, uh, how does the choice basically for these graphs of basically cryptocurrencies works, because I'm just curious to understand with liquid staking, for instance, and restaking. I think maybe it works more with Ethereum, and that's just will be my first pick, I believe. But that's what I yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think that Ethereum probably would make more sense, and it's something we could update. We kind of, as we put up these different charts, when we get feedback or one of our staff members realizes there might be a better asset to be associated with that topic, we'll make that change, kind of like we did with real world assets and Maker. But for others, it's kind of Bitcoin by default, because that's
Yeah.
generally what's going to be most appropriate for almost all topics in crypto, because Bitcoin does drive markets regardless of your take on it, whether you're a maxi or not. Um, but yeah, there's not like a perfect science to which asset you choose to be associated with a certain topic, but you can certainly open it up as I've done so here, and you can see that Maker or DSR is that primary discussion associated with real world assets, which is why that choice was made. But you can always go to the drop down and switch to Bitcoin or Ethereum by default, or even add another asset and it'll be included in this drop down here. So we keep options completely open.
That's what I really like about the platform. It's really versatile and convenient to use in this way. So you can always basically take a look at everything which you like. That's
Right.
that's
And while we're here, you can also just close out this topic. You'll see this by default, and we can type in anything we'd like. Let's say we want to just go buy or buying or bought. So the overall mentions of kind of positive themes related to people's optimism. And then we can compare that directly to sell or selling or sold. We'll put them on a shared axis. And you'll see over the past 3 months, times when buying or selling is starting to gain some traction. Obviously, right here is notable here at the beginning of July. This was right when we were bottoming out. It's still showing makers. So let me switch to Bitcoin's price. There we go. So Bitcoin's price got all the way down to about 54K. And you can see how the crowd got incredibly polarized here. And that's generally the sign of a turnaround, whether it's a lot of buying or a lot of selling or a little bit of both, as it was here. This was kind of that signal telling us, okay, all of the people with strong opinions are really starting to come out and make their voices heard. And sure enough, it immediately turned around the markets. Who's to say whether this was the true bottom for the rest of the year or anything like that? But at least for the time being, since a week has passed, this ended up being a very good buy the dip signal. So we looked for plenty of other signals in the opposite direction, such as June 7th, when we were back at 71.6K, and we see this big buy signal here where everyone is saying it's time to buy more. And sure enough, that's when we drop down. So the big thing we have constantly preached at Santiment is the markets are constantly moving the opposite direction of the crowd's expectations. So when the crowd is saying, all right, we're all going to the moon, that tends to be where the top is. That's what everyone was saying back in March. If I zoom out about 6 months instead of 3 months, you'll see it. And on the other end of the spectrum, if we went all the way back to November 2022, when FTX was collapsing and everyone was saying crypto's going to zero, get out while you can, that's where it's the perfect time to buy the dip. Warren Buffett in equities says this all the time: buy when there's blood in the streets. So this was that March, euphoria that was going on that ended up being kind of a foreshadow to the all-time high that happened less than a week later, and it hasn't come close ever since. So that's one of my favorite charts right here, is the buy versus sell narratives and how much just the extreme opinions are coming out at any given time.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a great tool. I think I missed it like totally, that you can do this such type of a comparison, and that gives another layer of understanding and perception here, and that's really interesting. I would totally take a look at it with some other combinations, because I think buy or sell is just the best place to show it. But I think if you will think of some time about it, you will understand what you can add here.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's true. So maybe we could also take a look at other social trends which there are on the platform, because there is another page called Trending Coins, which also provides some understanding in so in basically what is crowd is buying, basically what is crowd is talking about,
right,
in particular.
So the trending coins dashboard here is kind of similar to what the trending words tab is, except we're looking specifically at assets, obviously. And there's a few different elements to this page, primarily the positive versus neutral versus negative sentiment for each of those coins that are seeing the highest percentage increase versus their normal level of discussion. So right now we have Toncoin up there. Bitcoin is being talked about a lot, obviously, because it's still in a very polarizing territory. Ethereum, kind of for the same reason, and also related to those ETFs that people are highly anticipating. Tezos, interestingly, is up there and seeing a huge amount of positive sentiment compared to what looks to be almost no negative sentiment at all. Binance USD, Anchor, I can't even pronounce that. Galatasaray fan token, Basic Attention token, Alex Lab, and Nexo round out the top 10. And so you can see the proportions of the positive, neutral, and negative sentiment for each. And obviously, as you would imagine, the higher the ratio of positive sentiment, the more likely we're getting close to a top, because people are likely talking about it in a bullish sense because prices are rising in most cases, and FOMO is kind of kicking in. Now, if we scroll down, we can actually see these useful meters that show how bearish to bullish the crowd is at any given time. So we can see Toncoin in slightly bullish range. Bitcoin is actually right at neutral, so it's kind of being pulled in both directions at the moment. Ethereum, people are quite bullish on it. Tezos, a little more neutral. I won't do the whole thing, but you get the idea. And then you can see the social volume and price widgets here, as well as an AI summary explaining why it's trending. So for example, Ton is the number one asset because it's being used in the context of buying and selling a crypto token called Dogs on the Ton platform. Remember, we saw Dogs on the trending words tab as well. Multiple users are offering to sell Dogs tokens at different prices on the Ton platform using escrow services. And then we can also see a bearish summary. So the people who are kind of non-believers in Ton right now, there's an explanation as to why. And then the people who are big believers and are very bullish on Ton, you can see their explanation. So you get a full context of why it's trending, why people don't like it and why you should be a little concerned, and why people really like it and why you should be excited. And that's the same for all 10 of these assets. And it's AI generated, up to date, really is keeping tabs on exactly what those conversations are as they're coming out for each of them. And it's constantly being updated with the connected words to each of these assets. So I really spent a lot of time on this page and get a lot of information about the markets from looking at it.
Yeah, so talking regarding this page, I can say that that's so for me was surprising when I looked at it today. That so basically from all of these tokens here, I see like Ton, of course, why it's the first. It still was surprising for me that it's first, so it's rather unusual for me. but basically, I think I never heard of some of these tokens at all. So I'm just really curious to understand what are they and why are people talking about them. So overall, Sentiment grants, I think, the great like suite of tools which can help you to see the current narrative, like the narrative in the moment. What I can say for sure, because usually narrative in the moment is really easily missed, and sometimes it's really hard to grasp what is happening in the market currently. Of course, we know the biggest news, but some I can say some like pivotal stones like underwater traps are hidden for us, and we do not know many about, even maybe not everyone knows about Ton as much, what they're building, and how they're basically try to build their ecosystem. I think they have rather interesting approach with like Hamster Combat. I think everybody heard of them. Rather interesting way how they're developing there. And I think Hamster is also here on the top was. So I think they haven't listed yet, but everyone is talking about them already, and that's interesting.
Absolutely. You'll discover a lot of assets out there that are not typically on your radar, and get a lot of new discoveries this way. Whether you're an altcoin trader or not, sometimes a lot of these smaller assets like Alex, for example, or kind of an OG like Basic Attention Token, sometimes they'll pop up and have an extreme impact on where all of markets are going next, especially if it's kind of the leader of a specific sector. Notice Basic Attention Token, by the way, the crowd is all the way bullish right now. So there's quite a bit of euphoria going on. I do see that prices have been rising quite a bit, and social volume is gaining a little bit of steam too. So you'll learn a lot about the overall market conditions and which projects people are kind of honing in on at any given time.
Yeah, that's true. That's interesting. We have, I think, previously talked a bit regarding overall, I think, this feature before, and also regarding a bit crypto narratives, the next page, which is in beta. But I think Brian can help us give a deeper understanding on basically what is, how does it work, basically, what is behind it.
Yeah, so the crypto narratives page here, we're looking at the percentage of discussion overall that each of these specific larger term topics are making up of the overall social discourse among crypto traders. And we're scraping data off of Reddit, Telegram, X, 4chan, and Bitcoin Talk in particular to look at the kind of piece of the pie or the social dominance that these are all the, kind of making up. So even FTX right here, we can see is still getting some discussion. For those who were a former FTX customer, you may have received a notification about the bankruptcy filing and the specific plan and the details of it the other day. So that's still being talked about a little bit, even almost 2 years later. Airdrops are actually getting a large portion of discussion as of late. GameFi has been making up a huge portion of discussion, partly because we're putting a lot of different assets into this box here. But meme coins, you can see, are being discussed a little bit less over the past few months, and it's a great way to kind of see the trends visually, how one topic is starting to absorb the discussion rates of a declining topic that is no longer drawing interest.
Yeah, also here, a bit lower, I had seen another rather interesting graph.
This one here?
Chart. Yeah, this one here, yeah. So
yeah, this is kind of another look at some of the similar topics and looks at a little more of a zoomed in perspective. So This is just the past month, where the other one I think was either a 3 or 6 month timeline. And this one you'll see more topics that are kind of in the top 20 on any given time. Bitcoin and Bitcoin's price are always going to be here. You can see how much they were really being discussed a month ago. And I believe that's when we kind of were seeing a local top and people were getting excited. And just the overall amount of discussions was up a lot compared to right now, because you can see how much people have dropped off after the big dip. And even after what's a mild bounce that we're seeing right now, a lot of those people have not returned compared to the much higher rate of discussions in crypto that we were seeing a month ago. So that's actually a good thing, in my opinion, that so many kind of FOMOers have left and not returned, and there's less resistance for crypto to return to prominence and get back to those previous levels. So these are just a lot of different topics. A lot of them might overlap with the other chart we just showed. You can see AI is starting to gain some steam right now. Bitcoin ETF is actually starting to gain a little bit of traction once again. The CPI report, still kind of small, but I would expect that to rise in the next 24 hours. So it's just another discussion. And you can also see very nice explanations of each of them and their associated words. So it's just another way that you can get a quick summarization of the markets.
Yeah, looking at this, I just understand. I think that's I just saw, like, even this the green chart in the middle is Solana ETF, and it was discussed in the previous week. It was discussed, I believe, I think someone was interested to launch in launching Solana ETF, but it was rather interesting for me that it was like, basically, I think overall ETF for such big assets, I think for biggest assets in crypto, we will see in some time for sure coming, but still it is discussed. Overall, this chart, I think, grants also another view on what we have seen before. But Brian, overall, what are you like right now maybe looking at? Maybe what are your zones of interest currently?
Yeah, there's a few things. Obviously, this is quite on the social end of things, but I do want to compare what the whales are doing compared to how the crowd is perceiving things. So this is related to the social element, kind of as the counter to how the crowd is looking, and that is what the whales are doing at any given time. And you can see that for the most part, this bright green line, which measures the amount of Bitcoin held by 10 or more BTC wallets, essentially the sharks and whales, they've been going up significantly. Since April 25th or so, they've accumulated about 42,000 Bitcoin, which is pretty significant. Now, if we contrast that to the amount of total empty wallets going on, notice how it's declining. I'm going to hide everything else. Do that, and that. Just by holding down the Alt button and clicking each of those, you can hide or unhide them. So now we're just looking at 10 plus BTC wallets and their holdings versus the overall amount of non-empty wallets, which, as you would imagine, are primarily comprised of those very small wallets, because there are not very many shark and whale wallets compared to those 0.003 BTC wallets, right? So when those small, tiny 0.003 BTC wallets start to liquidate themselves because they're getting impatient after the price goes like this, I'll even draw a line. So since this local top on June 4th, you can see how much it's declined. And shortly after, the amount of non-empty wallets really just started to take a nosedive. So since June 13th, 4 weeks ago, there is a net loss of about 615,640 Bitcoin wallets. So about 1.13% of those non-empty wallets a month ago no longer exists when accounting for all the net differences. That shows a serious amount of social FUD going on amongst the crowd, while the actual whales and sharks are scooping up those Bitcoin that these small holders are liquidating. To me, that's a very good sign that we either already bottomed or are getting very close to one. Because one of the primary things that drive up markets would be the shark and whales and their holdings and their decisions to buy more. And that's exactly what they've been doing, while the small holders are dumping. And those are the two elements that essentially drive markets: the opposite of the crowd's perception and the reliance on the sharks and whales to buy or sell at any given time. So both are showing favorable conditions if you are on the bullish side of things.
Yeah, I agree primarily with, I think, everything you said prior to this. I personally more look on Ethereum, so I'm more Ethereum guy and not a big Bitcoin guy here. But I can say that with everyone accepting the ETF, so we are waiting for it, and I think we will see this Ethereum ETF after this the same with we had seen with Bitcoin. I think we remember that the price was rocketing prior to ETF. Just the day before ETF, I think, or like a couple of days prior to ETF, it was all-time high. And then right now we see what we see, and if we will take a look at the graph after the ETF itself, price fallen like drastically comparing to what we had. And partly the reason to it is the amount of assets which are, for instance, available to those companies who already basically bought the Bitcoin or Ethereum. At the time, it was Bitcoin, and the same situation is with Ethereum. For instance, Grayscale, they control, I think, a lot of assets in both Ethereum and Bitcoin. And after ETF for Bitcoin was approved and started to be traded, they liquidated half of their position, and it's around $20 billion in Bitcoin at the time. And the same, in Ethereum, they have almost bigger position, and probably this will happen. And usually, what I think is happening when ETF is approved, Grayscale is just able to propose large volume of not only Grayscale, but it's just like an example here. They just able to propose large volumes of Bitcoin on or of assets like Ethereum or Bitcoin, or a bit discounted price, for instance, and that is and for them it's a crazy earnings. So average price, if I'm not mistaken, of Grayscale Ethereum is around $2,000. So if you will take a look at current price of Ethereum, is closer to $3,000, 3,100, so in this range. And if you will take a look at this price and understand the difference, so it's crazy difference. With Bitcoin, they had, I think, even the larger difference. So that's why they had crazy earnings in clear cash. So yes, that's kind of what it is right now, and I think that's partly what we might see with Ethereum, and then maybe in the fall this situation overall will change, and we will see some, I think, the cumulative change in this narrative overall, because we have already seen the number of positive changes on the market from regulators, from public overall, but since the beginning of spring, I believe, and of winter, the situation just worsened. So it's common for spring, for summer overall, because as we know, sell in May and go away worked, and this year, and probably it may work next year as well. So yes, that's what I'm in particular thinking about right now with Ethereum, and yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you for sharing your stance on Ethereum. I think it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out the rest of this year.
Yeah, that's true. So overall, let us know if you have any questions in the chat. We are here to answer them. I think Brian had shown great tools on Sentiment, which can be used. That's what I really like about Sentiment. That's basically you can really have an insightful research on social trends. That's what I think is core, because I think everyone is able to see the markets, see the prices, and that's okay. On-chain tools are available to more people, but social tools are, I think, really what makes it different, and that's what we have here on Sentiment. So yeah, let us know any question. Yep.
Just as a reminder, head over to our pricing page. You don't necessarily have to get any sort of paid plan. You can try a 2-week trial and simply click this button, make an account, and you can explore all the same charts in real time with full historical data for all of the assets. We have over 3,000 on Santiment. And if you like it, you can talk to one of our experts. You can purchase a plan. You can see the different features of each of them. And we're more than happy to help. Check our X account out at santimentfeed.com. Or I'm sorry, no .com, just at santimentfeed. And we'd be happy to provide any link for you, or you can DM us directly there. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, so as for now, don't see any questions from people here. So I think overall that's there is one probably. Yeah, Daniel says that nice platform. So yeah, that's true. So thanks very much. I think overall we can probably wrap this meeting. Thanks very much, Brian, for joining, and thank you very much for joining us with Brian today on 3x Capital Market Research. We will be waiting you here next week on Thursday, as always. And see you later, guys. Thank you very much. Have a great day.